Hey everybody, welcome to our latest Q&A, video Q&A here. Today I'm with Drew Lorenz of We Are Food Safety, good friend of the magazine, good friend of the industry, and a great resource for anybody out there. He's going to talk to us a little bit about a wide variety of topics regarding COVID-19. It's been a month and a half or so since shutdowns in some of the states out there, and now the meat processing industry is really starting to get caught up in all of this in terms of media and headlines and illnesses even and whatnot. So I wanted to bring Drew in to talk to him a little bit about it. So Drew, we'll start right off the bat. Let's talk first about the illnesses themselves that are hitting some of these plants out there. Obviously, everybody in the industry knows that the meat processing industry is different from some of the other manufacturing segments out there. You've got shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow work conditions. You've got large plants that have hundreds and hundreds of people working in close proximity to each other. You've got then break rooms and locker rooms and hallways, a lot of communal areas, community shared areas out there. What are you seeing? What are you advising processors to look for, to do, in terms of trying to curb the spread of COVID-19 within the walls of their plants? Obviously, it's a challenge, and obviously the meat industry is good at food safety in general. But in terms of this kind of virus, what are you seeing? What's been what have your learnings been out there, and what are you trying to convince processors that they should be doing to stop the spread of this virus?
Well, one of the first things I would say is they have to look at their facility. A lot of our facilities in the industry were designed for, say, a capacity of 300 people, but because of advances in technology, we now have 500 people. We've really ramped up. So, is your break room big enough? How wide are your hallways? Can shifts move on and off at the same time? Some of the things that we're seeing that have been effective for the plants that have really limited it have been taking their shifts and breaking them up into smaller chunks, having their teams in smaller groups of people that go into the break room. When they come out, the break room's clean and sanitized. Another group comes in, controlling traffic in the hallways, either making one-way, I call them one-way roads. Do you have two ways to get off your processing floor, get to the break room or locker room, and then back? Make it a one-way loop. Then you don't have people passing next to each other. They can maintain the separation. For those facilities that are processing and they're usually shoulder to shoulder, that's a challenge. There's been some success with putting up the barriers, plexiglass or plastic barriers. In a lot of cases, they're using face shields. But our ventilation systems in our facilities are designed to rapidly move air around because we want to keep everything cool. And that creates a challenge. You actually have to look at your airflow in the facility during production to figure out what you can do to minimize contact from one person to the next. For some of our smaller facilities, mid-sized facilities, they're extending shifts. They're requesting emergency second shifts so that they can spread production out and still get the same poundage out every day. It does impact the bottom line, but it protects your employees. Long-term, it's giving them, it makes them more viable. Some of the different equipment we've seen, the face masks and the face shields. Face shields really is when the person sneezed because they got to go clean it off. There's tons of equipment out there. It depends what's available to you. Go to your suppliers. There's a lot of good suppliers out there that have a lot of different stuff. You may have to buy some stuff from one and go find a new supplier for something else. The disposable aprons and body suits that you see people using, again, it's availability. The biggest thing, though, if I was going to, the number one thing I try to drive home to all of our clients and to everybody in the industry, go into your break rooms, look at them. Can you minimize the amount of people in a break room, a locker room? And the one we always forget about is when everybody's coming on shift and off a shift, the congregation that's happening out in front of the front door of the plant, the employee entrance. You have to minimize that. got to be something where plant management, ownership, practice what they preach. If I'm the owner, or I'm the manager, I'm the senior person, and I'm walking up and there's 20 people waiting to get in the door, I wait my turn to get in the door. I don't crowd everybody out. This is a time for leaders in the industry to step up and be leaders. I mean, a good management team will get all the PPE there. Nobody's going to use it unless the leaders are using it. So at the end of the day, it's taking that leadership role within your company or within your organization or at your level and demonstrating it to your employees. It shows that you care, shows that you believe in what the company's doing. The second thing I want everybody to think about is communication. The plants that have been very successful at avoiding COVID-19 disruptions have done a great job of communicating every day to the employees. This is what's going on. This is what we're doing. Tomorrow when you come into work, there's going to be plexiglass between each workstation. This is how we clean and sanitize it. For employees that are home, they have call-ins where they can call in and get an update of what's going on, the schedule, your normal stuff, but also what are we doing to help protect our community? It is a challenging time, but it's also a time for opportunity. And for any of our clients, for anybody out there, if you have questions, you're not quite sure what to do, get a hold of somebody and find out. There's a lot of resources out there, whether it's AMP or NAMI or whoever it might be. There are a ton of resources. Use them.
So, this is obviously a very a highly transmissible virus. Is it almost inevitable that some plants are going to have trouble with this? And do you think that the media in general is overreacting? Is not the right word, because obviously we don't want people sick, we don't want people dying. Right. That's not the point. But is this something that there's no real silver bullet? People are going to get sick, and basically processors need to do everything they can to make sure that the employees are comfortable, at least, and trying to not get sick, as it were.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, when it hits a community, it spreads. It's a lot like norovirus. It's very contagious. It's having that plan in place. When an employee comes in or calls in and said, I was tested last night and it's positive, or I got my test results and I was positive, having the ability to identify and isolate the other employees that they were in contact with, taking the appropriate actions. A lot of it is just planning. All right, when it happens, this is how we deal with it. This is how we break our shifts up. We have a multitude of clients that have offsite, put offsite key employees, people that, I only have 2 techs that do this job. One of them is staying at home. Because when one goes down, then I have somebody that can come in and step in and fill that role. That seems very extreme, but you have to look at your operation. You have to make, you as the operator have to make the decisions based on your operation. I can't give you a silver bullet and say, hey, if you do this, you're fine, because there is no such thing. Have those plans in place and be ready to execute.
Is slowing down lines and maybe easing off the gas pedal on production maybe another thing that a lot of these plants need to look into doing, even if it means, maybe not making revenue numbers for this particular quarter or whatever it is?
Yes, and so some of the things that you do see is if you slow your line down, you can spread your personnel out and they can still do the same function. If you look at it this way, yeah, you've slowed your lines down, but you're not stopped. You're still producing. If you're shut down, you're definitely not making your numbers. If your employees, you lose a certain mass of employees because they're sick, you're dead in the water. Doing those things to mitigate it, knowing that you're going to have employees that are going to come in that are going to get this. How you deal with it, how you've isolated it. Excuse me. For example, if I have an employee that only exposes 2 other employees, I've got 3 people that I'm concerned about. Whereas if that same employee that was sick exposed my entire plant, because the way my break room's set up and my traffic flow within my plant, it's huge. One concern that's expressed a lot right now is that as the USDA moves from facility to facility doing their jobs, they're transmitting it. I haven't seen anything definitive that said, yes, that's happening or no, it's not, but applying common sense. The inspection teams that I've seen, that I've talked to and we've worked with, are applying common sense. When they come into a facility, they're doing the appropriate things as far as change out gear, etc. They're, they're going through the facility. They're staying away from people unless they absolutely have to. Where people are forgetting is your other components, your suppliers, your shipping your shipping people that come in and out of the plant, your office staff that are coming in and off the floor. Those, mitigate your risk by stopping that traffic. Your plant, your line speed, depending on what you're doing, maybe you can't slow the lines down because it's not going to do anything. In that case, shields. Each person is in their own little cube, and like I said, watch your ventilation if you go to that route. But we are seeing a lot of our bigger clients are slowing line speed. They're making adjustments to the line. They're changing when they trim things, but it's being proactive, not reactive. If you're reacting to this thing, it's too late.